All right, give it a few seconds and make sure that we are, in fact, recording and live. And I believe we are. It is the relaunched version of Flippin the Mic. James Flippin and Mike Ganci of the Daily Stache. And we are happy to be getting back after it again, talking some Mets baseball. I had been doing a lot of podcasting in a lot of ways back when we first started the show, which was, believe it or not, in 2017. I looked at the Twitter account
wow, it's been a while
to pin that one down. So it's 2017 here to 2021. A lot's changed. We were both talking off the air. We both purchased homes since then. No longer. I know I was renting and broadcasting from my apartment using the same microphone arm, but from a different location. And the Mets are in a very different place than the last time we did the show. I mean, I was talking about how my level of enthusiasm and excitement is really just a different thing when it comes to the way I feel about the Mets organization right now because of the Cohen ownership change. And you don't want to overstate it. I don't have any delusions of not still having tons of frustration this summer. We're still Mets fans. You know what I mean? Like things will figure themselves out. But I do feel good about the team. There's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of expectation. And, Mike, you reached out. You said, hey, what about maybe doing a show again? I feel it's a great time to be doing a Mets podcast because you try to catch the updraft of the stuff that's going on and all that kind of thing. So thank you for asking me to do it again. It's a fun thing to kind of add to the keychain of different media projects. I'm writing a Mets column now every now and then for Gotham Baseball now. So yeah, thank you. So I just put one of those together concerning Taiwan Walker, and we can talk about that as we get into the show today. But so James Flippin here, Mike Ganci there. I live in New Jersey. He lives on Long Island, I should say. And there's a lot to discuss. I mean, what do you think? Where are you at right now as we're on the cusp of actual games being played in spring training? Past pitchers and catchers. We're getting all the buzz, everybody in the best shape of their life type stories and all that kind of thing. Where are you, Mr. Mike Ganci, with the New York Metropolitans in 2021?
There's a word that we're both associating ourselves with now that we didn't pre-Steve Cohen, and that's optimism.
Yeah.
I think we know that not only is this guy worth $14 billion, I believe is the figure, but he, for the most part, has put his money where his mouth is. The Mets haven't had the perfect offseason, but they've had a much more active offseason than anyone in recent memory. I mean, between, you think of the little moves. They've added a ton of guys on low-end contracts. People don't talk about that could work out. People that, especially with the bullpen, there's always a guy or two that you don't think of that surprises and makes his case in camp. I don't know if I got a little bit of trivia for you. Do you remember the first guy they signed to a major league contract of the Steve Cohen era? There's a little.
So I believe it may have been the guy who I was just reading an article about. Is he like 6'7", and they signed him out of the Tampa Bay organization, like
Sam McWilliams.
Yeah.
Man. But I love giving a guy like that. He's been a career minor leaguer. He hasn't debuted in the majors yet, but he's got a hell of an arm. And you know what? In the bullpen, year to year, it's a crapshoot. I mean, unless you have those, the Mariano Riveras of the world come around once in a generation. So when you have, especially with Lugo down now, Mets added Loop. They had Trevor May, who I like a lot. Diaz had a great year last year. So we have to, he earned his place. So again, I know there wasn't with fans. So people thinking the pressure amped up. Who knows if that's the same Diaz. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. But they brought in a number of arms. And there's still a number of arms out there on the market. There's a number of everything out there on the market, still free agent. So I expect the Mets maybe to bring one or two more guys in. But overall, I'm pretty pumped at where this team is. I like the James McCann signing. I like them doing it quick, getting the guy they want and getting it done so he can get, working with the pitchers, talking to everybody, having off season, stuff like that. I know Real Muto lasted longer. Everybody thinks the Mets blew that, but I think McCann was a good move there. And, I would really love it if they start working on these extensions. Talk Conforto, Lindor.
Conforto and Lindor, yeah.
I know Syndergaard's coming up too, but he's got to be third on that list.
Well, what do you think of the notion that, and we can get into all the different stuff that you mentioned, because I love what you're mentioning about the bullpen. I saw somebody wrote a comment back to the piece that I had written about Taijuan Walker and the depth in the starting rotation, saying that the bullpen was still shaky and all this kind of stuff. And who knows? I mean, to your point with the whole crapshoot thing, it very well may be. You know what I mean? Like Diaz could go out there and just kind of be a total gasoline can, and then it kind of falls out from there. Who knows if you get anything out of a Betances, you know, like that's sort of a question mark holdover from last year. But yeah, I think Loop is an interesting guy. That's another Tampa Bay guy, if I'm not mistaken. You know, McWilliams, $750,000 major league contract. I don't know what his deal is with options and all that kind of stuff, but you figure that he's going to be there. You know, they should get Lugo back. What?
I think he's going to be out about it. I think it's supposed to be even possibly a little earlier. Okay. I think it's about a month he's expected to be out, but you know, maybe June's in a conservative estimate.
And that's around the time when Syndergaard possibly as well.
Yeah, I think that's more July-ish. I think he's going to be close to the deadline there. And then you remember in past years, the Mets would have been like getting Noah Syndergaard back is like making a trade.
Yeah, right. I know. Well, no, but you're absolutely right though. But and not to just, you know, jump around and hop around and cover a million different things at once. But to your point about Noah Syndergaard and, you know, last year's or previous years, it would have been, this is going to be like trading for a frontline starting pitcher in the middle of May and all this kind of stuff. They're not doing some of that stuff again. You know, it kind of felt like Yamamoto or Lucchesi. I don't know how you say his name, but
I think it's Lucchesi. Okay. But you got to say really Italian.
Lucchesi.
You
would have thought maybe Lucchesi was going to get the starting job in the 5th spot. But no, the fact that it's Walker, or at least, you know, as long as he's healthy, it's Walker, is kind of like, you know, allowing those guys, Yamamoto and Lucchesi, to be true depth guys that, you know, maybe get innings and stuff like that. You know, you kind of feel like they're not doing the same thing either with the bullpen, because they did sign so many guys. They did bring in so many arms that something should shake out, something positive. In May, I mean, that was another early signing for them. You know, he's very well thought of. I don't know exactly how they plan to like mix and match at the end of the game, or if it's just going to be straight Diaz or whatever. But yeah, I think that they made a lot of good moves with their bullpen. And I think that so much of it is sort of a question mark already every year, no matter what, again, to your point, that it's kind of like, let's see what happens here. But Trevor May, that's a pretty nice signing. And that's a guy who I think is going to be a big linchpin for them in terms of how good or bad their bullpen ends up being.
Right. And I'm not sure, maybe you'll know this better than me, is the 3-batter rule still in effect? Do you know because that's a big deal.
It is. Yeah, that's stupid rule.
Because I know he signed with the Yankees. I didn't understand not going to Justin Wilson's asking price, and I know he wanted to stay. And he literally gave the Mets the chance to match the Yankees offer, and they let him walk. And I thought that would have been a good final piece of the bullpen, is bringing him back. I thought he did enough because he was good against lefties, good against righties.
I mean, I didn't know that he signed with the Yankees, first of all.
Yes, he did.
I thought Justin Wilson was great for them. I mean, it was like 2 years ago, I guess, when he first came on board for them, right?
Yeah.
And when he got hurt was kind of like when I remember that was when their bullpen just like totally fell apart. Like they got
overextended.
After he got hurt.
Were filling roles they didn't belong in.
Yeah, and then when he came back, they kind of stabilized a little bit in their bullpen. And he was good again last year. And yeah, that's frustrating. I don't know why they wouldn't have wanted to bring him back. That's sort of beyond me. That kind of belies exactly what we've been talking about these last few minutes, being smart about, you know, focusing on depth and numbers and all that kind of stuff. But
I also think, and I don't think Lucchesi, actually I do. I think both Lucchesi and Yamamoto have options. So, which is why they made the trades they did. And good for the Mets getting what they did for Steven Matz. I think they did that perfectly. He was a non-tender candidate. They got 3 arms and they used one. There's still a player to be named later in that deal. And a lot of people, Joe DeMeo is one guy I really like that focuses on the minors.
Mm-hmm.
He expects that to be like not a top name, but like somebody we know. So I'll kind of wait to reserve judgment until I see. I'm not a huge minors buff, but
yeah. But in other words, that PTBNL might be one that kind of hurts more than a typical,
like a little bit. And I
guy who got taken in the 52nd round, or
yeah. But it was like, the Mets have already given up some for that to get Lindor. And
I mean, I guess it's also going to start to sort of be that way, right? Because I mean, the minor leagues are so constricted now, and there's fewer teams, and everything's more covered than it ever was. So anybody who's probably worth anybody in a trade, you're probably going to at least know who that person is. I mean, unless he's specifically saying it's going to be somebody in like a top 10 prospect list or something like that. That's a little more specific.
Yeah, they're I don't think anybody the top 10s are moving. Sandy made that pretty clear. And the fact that he got Lindor without giving away any of the blue chippers blows my mind. I mean, Isaiah Green's got a chance to be a decent player.
Well, I mean, look, I think anytime you give up guys that are somewhat well thought of, including even, obviously Jimenez, it hurts to do so. But at the same time, I kind of love it because I feel like if I'm Lindor, right, and who knows exactly what's going to happen. I don't know enough about like if people actually sign contracts like within the year before they hit free agency. Does that happen anymore, or like does it basically have to be in spring training?
That's what Mookie Betts. That's what Mookie Betts did. Mookie Betts got traded
season right before free agency.
But that's kind of like the new fad because they like to focus. They like to have their security, and Lindor is open to it. And I think it will. I think the Mets. I mean, they have to take care. I honestly, I would, as much as I love the fact that they made that trade, and they're focusing on him. I think it sends a better message to the fan base if they take care of Conforto first, because he's the kid that grew up here. Mm-hmm. He's heading to be their next captain. I think there's no doubt about it. I know that word's thrown out a little loosely, but I really think he is like the guy that speaks up for the players, and especially with everything that went on with all their stances they took when they decided not to play and all that. Whether you support that or don't support that, we could talk about that too.
Right.
But I would love if they took care of him first, and obviously took care of Lindor too. If they got both of those done before the season, it would be amazing.
Now, counterpoint, right?
Yeah,
he's a Boris guy, isn't he?
Conforto.
Yeah,
I believe so. Yes.
So, is it even? It's
possible. You know what? Boris does what his players want. Boris very much believes in free agency, though.
Yeah.
So that's why I think Boris has Chris Bryant too.
Mm-hmm.
If he serves me right.
I just feel like I would be shocked if Conforto does it, and I don't know why. You're right. He's actually kind of grown into his. First of all, he had a tremendous year.
Great
to the extent it was a year last year, but he was great in the abbreviated season.
Yes, he was.
He's been very good in years prior to that, and shown flashes of being that player that he was in seasons prior to that. And I think you're right that he's kind of cemented his role as being a bigger part of the team in terms of his veteran status and kind of taking on more of a leadership role and all that kind of thing. But I would just be, for some reason, I would just be so shocked. I know his mom was like a Olympic athlete, like he won the Golden Spikes in college or whatever. Like, I think that's just a guy that Boris has been like saying, like, look, you're going to get paid.
Oh, he's going to get paid.
Yeah.
He's probably to lock.
Whereas Lindor's got like the 4 guys he's got to go up against in free agent.
Right. So there's actually a market to be set there. Not, if this could have went any better is if Mookie got to free agency. He was the guy for going to make his first splash.
Yeah, that's
true. Good for him. Good for them and Sandy to pivot.
And apparently the Dodgers just have more money than God. Absolutely anybody. Yeah, more money than God.
Yes.
I mean, that's really the baseball gods. They've outpriced the baseball gods at this point. And apparently that's true because they finally won it last year. So, good for them.
We certainly have to talk about Trevor Bauer, but I don't want to get too out of sorts. But
I mean, I don't necessarily have a super tight agenda. I think we're kind of getting our feet wet again. We're kind of getting back into the swing of things with flipping the mic.
He's
Mike Ganci. I'm James Flippin. Do a little reset. For just the audio listeners, if you're watching on video, since we're doing this on YouTube, now you can see who it is that's talking. But yeah, we can talk Bauer. I mean, how did you feel about that when, I guess, inclusive of everything, you know, his actions on social media, his signing with the Dodgers, you know, whatever.
Well, I can never criticize a guy for wanting to go home. I mean, that totally makes sense. The way he delivered everything, first of all, there was obviously, he admitted miscommunication involved. They were supposed to put up those ads to sell autographed Mets stuff or any other team stuff until he had made his decision, because obviously there were signs. It's almost like the fans were tricked into thinking he was coming.
Yeah.
And I don't totally I know he's like a new age technology athlete, and he believes in all these different metrics and he's outspoken, and I mean,
he likes drones. He's all into drones. You know, he likes to work on the drones.
And then him and his agent, you know, posting workouts and everything else, and good for her. She's gotten herself into the public eye.
Wait, is he married, Trevor Bauer?
I don't think so, and I don't think she is, and people always put that together. But
I mean, like, not, you know, again, not that there's anything wrong with that. Again, not that there's anything wrong with that at all, or not that I'm insinuating it's happening, but I just always wondered. I
did too. I think that's a fair question. They spent a lot of time together, but he's her prized, you know, client. So you have to understand everything he was going through.
Well, she did well by him as far as that's concerned. I mean, geez.
and she definitely did well by him. But the video, you know, the reveal video, a la LeBron James, and the decision and all that.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff makes me a little bit vomit. But at the same time, if he posted that video and the Mets were involved, I probably would have been doing cartwheels. So I'm a bit of a hypocrite, if I'm being honest.
So you would have been, and I'll be honest with you, when it comes to the Bauer thing, right? Leaving almost all of what you said aside, when he almost signed with them, when the Bob Nightingale tweet.
Bob Nightingale, there he is.
I was pumped. Like, first of all, not knowing that he was the one who had tweeted it, because I don't follow him, but someone else was tweeting and saying, yeah, you know, Bauer or whatever, and I was like, oh shit, like this rotation's going to be nasty, you know what I mean? Like, just waited for a second. And then when it turned out that they didn't sign him, I very quickly pivoted. Now, of course, I'm always quick to rationalize, but I was like, all right, I don't know if I necessarily wanted to spend that money on Bauer anyway. I mean, like, is he really that good? Like, he beat up on the NL Central last year. He's a good pitcher. He's solid.
I would upgrade that to very good, but is he worth, you know, more money than Jacob deGrom? Absolutely not.
No.
On that deal the Mets signed, well, and don't forget, another topic probably for another time, deGrom has an opt-out after 22. And he would be smart to use it. Mets, you know, he deserves to cash in.
Yeah.
So that's going to be another thing we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, but they got to take care of him. They got to, I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe the sticky one ends up being Syndergaard.
I think they let him walk. I do. I think Syndergaard.
Let him just, I hope he opens an absolute can and just, like, you know.
You know what? If he lights the world on fire and the Mets are leading division by 10 games and he's part of it and everything, fine. You know what?
Is he a free agent after this year?
He's a free agent after this year, correct?
Okay.
And I don't think point me to a season where he's, you know, won 15 games. Point me to a season where he's been
the year they won 2016, I guess. The year they went to the wild card.
Yeah, that was the 1 year. I mean, he's going to get top line money from somebody. Somebody's going to just say, you know what, that arm, and he already, you know, had his surgery and everything checks out medically.
Right.
Of course, you want him to stay healthy. I mean, it's good for the team. It's good for the person. You never want anybody to get hurt. It's just, he hasn't done enough for me to be paid like that. I mean,
I can't really question it. I mean, he's always had a little bit of a AJ Burnett vibe to him,
right?
And obviously, Burnett got paid, even though he had never really put the resume together,
right?
It was based off his arm talent. Or
you can argue Stroman's done more. I mean, and I like Stroman as a 3. I don't think Stroman's again another top guy. He'll probably get overpaid too. I think there's a very fair chance that both of them go to the market Do they come back? I'd say there's a pretty good chance probably one of them's back next year, but it's I guess early to tell. You got to see what they do this year.
Well, you know what? I'll say this much. I think that's why, and of course, you'd love it if he was probably 3 years younger and hadn't had any sort of injury problems himself. But that's why the Carrasco pickup is big.
Yeah, I love that.
He's a solid 2, very much by definition. And, you know, if Stroman walks, if Syndergaard walks, then obviously you're leaning pretty heavily, I would think, on a future David Peterson. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I don't know what they would do. They'd have to pay somebody, I think.
They have a couple kids coming. You got Matt Allen. You got JT Ginn, or 2 guys they believe in. They got Zapucki.
I was gonna say him, but he feels like he's so like far off the radar now that I don't know if like
I think he's going to debut this year.
Knock him out of Tommy John well or whatever. I mean, like how's he?
And
what do the Joe DeMayos of the world say about Thomas Zapucki?
I think he projects to be a low end starter to high end reliever. And you know what? Those relievers that are controllable and stuff, that's valuable.
Yeah, for sure.
So I guess we'll see. But as you've seen year to year, you know, the Mets have had some guys debut that look great. Paul Seawald, for first year, he looked like he was going to be a very good reliever.
Right.
Now he's worth as much as a bag of balls.
Yeah.
And he's the kind of guy that gets traded for cash.
Yeah.
And
is he still in the league?
No, yeah, I think he's in the league, but he's not with the Mets anymore. I think they DFA'd him.
He's not pitching for like the Bonsai Bears or
he might belong on the Ducks. I don't know. He's in somebody's minor league system. I don't know if he's going to make the cut.
Yeah, no. I mean, look, that was sort of the point of my piece that I wrote most recently for Gotham Baseball. Was I said, you know, the Taijuan Walker signing was so huge to me personally because of the way they've tried to cobble together, and largely based off hoping that something was going to happen and then injury resulted. But the way they've had to kind of piece together that 5th starter spot over the last 3 years or whatever is just an absolute
competition is key. I love it.
Yeah.
David Peterson pitched very well last year.
He did.
For a guy that came up not as a huge hyped prospect.
Right.
He was a good prospect, but nobody.
And he was drafted pretty high, and he was very good in college, I think.
Right. I remember that video when he got picked by the Mets. He cried hysterically.
Did he really?
Go to YouTube. Yeah, he just like it was cool. I like catching those.
Oh yeah, but okay, but
he like totally in front of his, like they said, Mets draft David Peterson, and he just lost it. I get a lot of emotion.
I mean, look, I like David Peterson. I'll never forget. I don't know if that was his debut. I can't remember now if it was his debut or not, but I think it might have been that game against the Red Sox in Fenway.
Yeah, I think it was.
He pitched his ass off. I mean, I think he might have struck out like 10 guys or something. There was some like bases loaded, 1 out situation. I think he coaxed a double play. I was just like, damn, this kid's got some balls.
Yeah, he's not a big strikeout guy. He's like a pitch to contact type.
Right.
But I love the fact that he's still relatively young, and the Mets brought in some guys to compete. The competition creates the king. That's a phrase my grandfather always said.
I like that.
It's and I think, you know what? Joey Lucchese's not guaranteed anything. Yamamoto's not guaranteed. These are all guys that you know, Yamamoto throws 5 pitches. Imagine if the Mets turned around and decided to make him the long man.
Yeah.
That could be that value if either they're winning or losing 7-0 in the second inning. Having that guy that could give you 3 or 4 innings in the middle is important.
It is. And again, I just think it's really not to double up on what you're saying. I just think I'm saying it a little bit differently, that when you don't have that guy, so like you're saying how it's nice to potentially have somebody who could even be a weapon in that sort of position as a middle reliever, long reliever guy. To not have anybody of major league quality there means that the, you know, Chris Flexens of the world, the Wayne
Corey Oswalt.
Yeah, the Corey Oswalts of the world are out there pitching to like a 9.5 ERA. Like, I'm not exaggerating, like basically giving up 3 runs an inning.
Oh my God.
So
like if they get a swinging strike, you're surprised.
Yeah. And it was awful, always awful to watch. And it's just like, geez, like I know it seems to me like there's other teams that have these guys that at least are, you know, 5 ERA guys. You know what I mean? In this type
Remember, I think about it. I'll throw a name out for you from a few years ago. Actually, more than a few, but you'll remember him. Remember Darren Oliver?
Yeah.
He was that guy.
Absolutely, and he was a huge role on that 2006. And then, if I'm not mistaken, he signed with Anaheim like the year after.
Yeah, he still was kind of valuable, but he kind of fizzled. Everybody goes to Anaheim.
You know what the problem was? The Mets needed him so badly in 2007. And while we just like died on the vine at the end of that year, it was like, man, what I would give for Darren Oliver right now. What I would have given for anybody who could have gotten out.
We have so many died on the vine stories. I'm looking forward to having a good one. You hear Pete Alonso the other day said that he looks forward to the block party at all 5 boroughs.
Yeah. What did you think of that? He said he's got the same goal as 2020, which was to win a Gold Glove and end the season on a parade float drunk.
Like Tom Brady, right?
Yeah, right.
Did you see that video when he had to be helped while he walked?
Yeah, right. And then he was tweeting out about like avocado tequila or something.
Oh, you know what? Good for him. Yeah, that actually made me like him, and I'm a Jet fan.
Well, I think that it was good for Jets fans in a way because, and this is coming from a Giant fan, so I mean, it's not. I feel like I'm more of a neutral observer, but at the same time, having kind of seen different aspects of this on every different level. I think that was therapeutic in a way for Jets fans because it's like, okay, it wasn't just us getting ramrodded year after year after year. This guy is an absolute freak. He's better than Jordan. You know what I mean? Like we all just have to sort of like, what more can we say at this point? You know what I mean?
I don't know if I'm ready to go better than Jordan, but he's definitely on the Mount Rushmore. I mean, in terms of greatness in sports. I mean, if you want to, okay, well, let's do this fast. Gretzky hockey. I don't think there's
that one's. He's. I don't even know. You might have to have like whatever Rushmore is, because it's just Gretzky's face, and then you could have
the rest. Baseball, you could have an argument. I know Babe Ruth, probably the first that comes to everybody's mind, but
right.
There's Ted Williams people out there. There's Lou Gehrig people. DiMaggio, Yankees. Willie Mays is another one.
Yeah.
We could go with the Mets Rushmore, but. So baseball, we could leave open. Jordan's pretty consensus.
Yeah. Oh, well, what about LeBron?
No, I don't think he's there. He's definitely a top 5. I don't think he's there.
No.
I mean, some people.
What about Bill Russell?
Or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is up there. Yeah. Wilt was like a man amongst children, so you can't really do that because he was so big. He wasn't like Bill Russell is definitely. What did he have? 12? And did he win 12 titles?
His like at least 10.
Yeah, he had at least 10. So, I mean, it's but LeBron's not there for me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I understand, but at the same time, it's like wherever he goes, they go to the finals too. So,
he carried those Cleveland teams on his back.
Yeah. And I mean, the Lakers, granted, they got Anthony Davis. I know that, but I mean, they weren't going anywhere until he went there.
Yeah, should be interesting when they play Brooklyn this year. I think that's already written down.
That one's pretty much set in stone, right? See, that's the thing I kind of hate about the NBA.
Yeah, me too.
Now we have to wait. Now we have to wait for them to play a 7-game series.
I'm loving the Knicks, though. I'm really enjoying it.
Me too. I'm thrilled. I think that the Thibodeau hire was a good one. I was excited about it from the jump. It's awesome that for once it seems like they got one of those guys. In the case of speaking of the Lakers. In the case of Randall, who just kind of figured it out.
And he's playing defense. I was watching the closing minutes. They don't yesterday. They're actually playing right now. I have no idea what's going on. But I was watching the closing minutes yesterday, and he had a key steal and dunk, and that's not been his game in the past. He's kind of been score and a ton of turnovers. I mean, he still could improve with the turnovers, but he's definitely turned into a leader, and I think the Knicks should keep him now. And I was all about team trade him before the season because the Knicks are building up assets, and then they got the late first. They got the quickly fell to them, so that was a nice pick. And Toppin's now coming into form, and they got some pieces. RJ.
Yeah, I was reading, I guess, where some people aren't as happy with Toppin. Like basically, he's just kind of been nothing but a one-trick pony with the dunking or whatever. But I don't even have MSG, so I literally can't comment. YouTube TV doesn't have MSG, so I can't.
It's funny you say that because my wife, we were talking about how much cable costs, and we went all out here. It's only Optimum, so I did the basic plan, and I was like, I have to have SMY and MSG, and so they're included. But it's like $126 something a month plus their fees and stuff. It's a lot of money.
Well, when I switched to YouTube TV, my cousin recommended it, and I said, "Can't do it. I have to be able to watch the Mets." You know what I mean? Like they won't have SNY, and he was like, "No, they have SNY," and I was like, "Oh, well, that's a horse of a different color." So I ended up getting it, and at the time, I didn't give a shit about not being able to watch the Knicks.
Yeah.
Now it's like, and he really basically the last couple of years when I had YouTube TV at like the start of the year, I'd be like mad that I couldn't watch, and then they would just be so bad that I just didn't care anymore.
What does YouTube TV run? If you don't mind.
I think it's like 60 a month.
Oh, that's big. That's a big drop over a year.
Yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous. And again, like with the whole cable, I had cable for the 10 years that I lived in my apartment, and I just didn't use it really. You know what I mean? Nowhere near what it offers. There's so many channels. There's so much content on there. YouTube TV has a decent amount too, and plenty of stuff that I just won't watch. But it has SNY, and I was basically sold on it from there. I was like, okay. And also at the time when I first signed up for YouTube TV, it was $40 a month.
So
they've consistently added it, and they're like, "Oh, we've added some new channels. It's $5 more now." And I'm like, "Motherfucker, I didn't ask you for more channels."
I've been recently seeing commercials on MSG for Fubo TV, and I didn't look into it yet, but they have MSG, and I'm a Ranger fan too. So watching the Rangers and Knicks is important, just in the beginning until I get frustrated. Like all four of my teams, the Jets included. They all lead to frustration.
Yeah, they do.
But anyway, we went a little bit on a spiral.
Well, no, it's all good because I think it's good in the sense that it all kind of connects in where right now there is a little bit of buzz for a number of different New York sports teams where there really wasn't one. Hockey is its own thing, and I don't even know that much about it. The Rangers are obviously very young, and I think there's some level of excitement for obviously what's the new kid. I went to high school with a girl by the name of Lafreniere. So
really? That's
I know that name.
His jersey sales were so popular that I ordered his jersey for myself and my father for Christmas. My mom was going to give me the one for me, and then I was going to give my dad. And I ordered them on October 29th, and they came on February 4th. That's how popular his jersey
was. Holy crap.
Yeah.
That's no joke.
Yeah.
Now, was he the number one pick or the number two?
Number one. He was number one. He's had a little bit of a little slow out the gate, but
yeah.
Forget he's 20 years old, so
he's a baby.
And that seems like the most likely next New York coach to get the axe. It would be David Quinn. So that's the rumors are already swirling about it. This team was expected to do more. Making
the rounds. Obviously, the Islanders are they're relatively solid. Barry Trotz.
They're pushing for the playoff spot. It's a team I'll never root for.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I love the way they're put together because they're excellent on defense. They play really fast.
And the Devils are like not as bad as they were expected to be.
Yeah, because last year they had that similar thing as the Rangers. So they had Jack Hughes, who last year was expected to be Lafreniere this year.
Right.
And he had a slow year. He had some struggles and stuff, and now he's like bat out of hell. And he's killed the Rangers. He scored, I think, like 4 goals in 3 games.
Is that still a rivalry? Is there still?
Oh yeah. And I love when hockey gets physical, especially when I'm there because the crowd. But that's a whole nother thing. The crowd missing from everything.
Yeah. Well, but now you can go, right? I mean, now you can actually go to some of the Devils and Rangers and Islanders games.
Well, let's segue now because I like that you brought that up. Mets just opened it up, so Mets are doing, I believe, was it 2,000 to start, or it was?
That sounds right. That for some reason that number sounds right, but I can look it up.
Well, let me ask you, because I know we've had plenty of discussions in the past where we've differed, which I love because that's the whole point of this is to get both sides of the coin.
Yes.
In terms of, are you willing to go through a test and all that kind of stuff to go see a Met game?
Yeah, I think I would be. I think that in terms of the extent to which it's maybe a little bit not even on some like personal invasion of privacy type sense. It's just, I feel like that's probably a little bit overwrought for an outdoor baseball game in the middle of the summer.
Especially when everybody's spread out.
Yeah. Like it's just not necessary per se. I get it more, for example, in terms of even like hockey games and basketball games.
Inside.
It's an indoor thing. And then they want to be able to do the contact racing and stuff like that. So that's fine. But yeah, I think I probably would be. I mean, I want to go back. I mean, I definitely miss it. You know what I mean? I miss the notion of, I think everybody misses kind of like everything that comes with just being a part of life again. Yeah.
My wife and I, and it was 12 of us on that Saturday when everything like Broadway shut down. If you remember, that Saturday we were going to see opening weekend of Mrs. Doubtfire on Broadway. And we were so excited about it.
Yeah.
And it got I think on the Thursday we found out. So the group still hung out on the Saturday. That was the last like group get together. And it was just like, we were all like, oh, so close. But I mean, I would do it. I think I would do it too. Between you and me and the wall, I've already been through not having COVID. My sister had COVID, but it was a very mild case, thank goodness. But in terms of the testing process, I was just in Florida a couple of weeks ago. We drove, and so we had to test before. We tested before we went. It wasn't required by Florida, but we went to see my wife's parents, so I wanted to, just because they have conditions and pre-existing conditions, so we wanted to do right by them.
Now, was that the PCR test, like the one they go all the way up and they send it to the lab and they do all that?
Well, I did. I've done that test once when I didn't feel well, and I did because the City MD by me does both, and it's free. I was like, why not? I found out a couple days later I was negative on both. And that was just when I get sick once a year, and it's what it was, but I just did it so my family and everything.
Yeah.
And then we did it in Florida before we left, and then we did it here when we got back, because if you don't do it when you get back, it's supposed to be 10 days, I think. And we just weren't seeing
I feel like they change it because it's like,
it was 14 and then it was 10. And then if you get the test, it's like 3 or 4 days.
Right.
So we just got the rapid when we got back, and so I've gotten the rapid 4 times and the PCR once. So I've been through the mill, and it doesn't bother me. My wife goes like this and moves her head. The last time we went together, it was quite funny to watch. But I'm like, okay, just do it. I'm the guy that gives blood. Doesn't bother me. And
yeah. Well, I'm a little squeamish with that stuff myself.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't like the blood stuff for sure.
Yeah, but have you been through the COVID process yet in terms of the testing?
No, actually, I have not been tested a single time. And granted, I've been working from home, and I haven't really done much of really anything in terms of I went out to we went to a wedding in July, and my boyfriend and we went to a wedding in July, and we that was like a socially distanced, kind of not sparsely attended affair. And then what else? We had a very small crowd for Thanksgiving, like under 10 people. Same thing for Christmas. And actually for Thanksgiving, we ended up lucking out. We had the windows down and everything, and it was kind of like a warm day.
Oh yeah.
Everything just kind of came together in that respect. But no, my boyfriend's been tested a few times. I just never at any point did I have symptoms or come into contact with anybody who did, so I never felt the need to. But I think now, the question is, and what you think about is really like the vaccine. Not to get into this whole,
we can a little bit.
I think I like the Johnson & Johnson one more because I just don't know about this whole mRNA thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's new. I'm not saying it's bad. It's probably great. It's probably the next great thing, but that whole thing is just a little bit more unsure to me. Whereas the Johnson & Johnson is just a little bit of dead virus that's going in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it seems to be, there's a lot more questions than answers in general about this whole thing, which makes this process very scary. I have a lot of friends who work in the medical field. So I have one friend that still hasn't gotten her. She does physical therapy for patients that like had surgery. So she goes into their rooms and stuff. So she had COVID, and she still months ago, and still hasn't regained full taste and smell. So, and then she got vaccinated and she started feeling symptoms again from the vaccination. I mean, it was brief, but
the first dose or the second dose?
The second dose.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then somebody else, they happen to be best friends. She works in a like an X-ray tech type thing, and she got vaccinated, and she just had pain in her arm. I've heard that a lot from people, just like the dead arm for.
Or like my mother, who works, she's retired now, but she volunteers in a hospital down there in South Jersey. So she worked in like the early stages of the vaccination process as an observer, where like they kind of make sure that the person doesn't keel over in the first 15 minutes after getting it or whatever. So because she was doing that, they offered her the vaccine, and she had like general fatigue the day of the second dose. Like she said, she felt basically drained, but she was like, after that, I was fine, and she didn't have pain in the injection site, which some people do.
Well,
I think that's kind of true of every shot, isn't it? Like if they get you in the muscle, it's like you're fine.
Yeah, you're sore. I mean, I've had that before when I've like even like getting blood taken. Sometimes you get like
yeah.
As a diabetic, I've been through that. So
right, exactly.
And to answer to respond to your other point, my wife and I have appointments in March at Jones Beach. So
okay, good.
And I plan on calling, but it was such a process to get appointments. I have no idea what they're administering. I signed up for something, and I still isn't that a crazy thing? The fact
you don't know if it's Moderna or if it's Pfizer or if
no clue. But that's but I plan on.
Where do you know where it is or what type of site it is?
It's Jones Beach. It was through the state, so I'm not.
You might be able to find out. To be honest with you, I know it is out there. I think in reports like, oh, this one uses Moderna or this one uses. It's a state site, right?
Yeah, I think, and Johnson & Johnson literally just got approved by FDA, right?
Yeah, that one just got approved. Now that one they're going to use a lot to like go out to like public housing buildings and churches and busy community centers. Like, they'll set it up in public colleges and stuff like that too. Since it doesn't have to get deep froze like that one, they can just keep in a regular refrigerator.
Yeah.
So they can take that out on the road.
And that's a one shot, right?
That's one shot too.
Yeah.
So they're going to have that one go to like doctor's offices and stuff. And then they're just going to try to like flood it out there. And also I know nothing about this, but in the back of my head, I thought, all right, well, that's a New Jersey company. So we all better like get hooked up a little bit. You know what I mean? It's one of those times you make right.
Forget about their own. I get it. I totally get it.
Don't take it outside of the family. Come on. I feel like you should be able to help us out with this one. You know?
I feel my wife's like, as soon as we get that, if it is the 2-dose one, we're going somewhere. Like we need to go somewhere where we can put our feet in a pool or something. Just like.
And also, I would just also throw this out there because I was talking to my aunt about this. My aunt is older. She's even older than she's my dad's older sister. So she's a little freaked out about the vaccine and stuff. I believe she has an appointment now. But I said, look, here's the other thing. And you having dealt with diabetes, you obviously understand this. I said, if you're of a certain risk profile, then that's a totally different, weighing of the equation. You know what I mean? I advise people who are of a certain risk profile, get the vaccine because it's more important that you go that route than let's say somebody else who can say, yeah, you know what, I will wait and see if like maybe Johnson & Johnson has a little bit less of that fatigue or pain at the injection site or something, so on and so forth.
I know.
And my father's the same way. He's had a lot of respiratory illness. I'm like, go for it.
And also, it's scary when you hear something has like a 60-something% success rate, and then you're like, well, that's like a 2/3 chance that it'll work, and that's too high of a fail rate to me.
Yeah, but however, they say that it's like 100% effective in terms of avoiding hospitalizations or something like that, or 95% and 100% for death or something like that. Now, how do they know that?
Right. Do they have, how much of a sample size do they have?
Exactly. But at the same time, I guess what they're saying is the likelihood that it's going to cut down on those most severe symptoms, which is obviously which is what the story's been in the last 12 months, is people who get those most severe symptoms. That's where the vaccine can really take a bite out of it.
Right. And that's and kind of circling back to baseball for a second, that's another thing to factor in. You think injuries, you think people getting hurt. But if somebody gets sick, then that's a whole horse of a different color. That's like that's why they have the COVID list. So that's another thing to consider. That's why the Mets having these extra guys, or these Yamamotos, these Lucchese's, these other guys they have. I saw. Remember, I don't know if you remember, like early in the offseason, they announced all these minor league deals, like Malik Smith and do you remember Aroydis Vizcaíno, who used to be the Braves closer?
I remember him. I didn't realize the Mets had signed him.
He is in the Mets camp.
Okay.
So they have a bunch of these guys that have had like previous success too. So you never know if you strike lightning in a bottle. Look at a guy like R.A. Dickey came out of nowhere.
I mean, look, crazier things have happened, and of all the things the Mets have had some actual success with, it's claiming guys off the scrap heap for the on the pitching side. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like they don't seem to have as much success with it on the position player front. The Colin Cowgills of the world or whatever.
He was an opening day starter.
Yeah, and he hit a home run on opening day.
He did. He had a Kaz Matsui moment.
Kaz Matsui, right? He had a Kaz Matsui moment. That's a good call. But they definitely have had some luck picking up some of those, scrappy pitchers. And speaking of that, I was wondering, I don't even know if he qualifies as a scrap heap guy, but do they still have the guy they got from the Orioles, Castro?
Yeah, they do. And I think, Miguel Castro. That's a good mention. I forget about him sometimes, and it's not.
Yeah, because he was kind of not so bad. I mean, there was sometimes he was also very bad, but he was kind of.
Here's this thing: he could be wild,
right?
He's always been like a swing and miss guy, high strikeout guy, but it's like sometimes it's funny. There's so many of those pitchers in baseball, especially with this three batter thing now. If it is still active, which I don't think either of us know for sure, but. If you got one of those guys that come in that can't hit the broadside of a barn, can't throw the ball down the middle, I mean, three batters, especially coming in a jam, that changes the game like crazy. Yeah. And then you get some of those Nationals bullpens the last couple of years, where they was just, especially Doolittle. I'm sad he signed somewhere else. The Mets lit him up every time they faced him.
Yeah, I know, right? He was always great for, good. We might actually get back in the game.
What's funny is I saw that he wasn't signed for a while, and I'm like, there's an arm I wouldn't mind, like if he was in a lower leverage spot, lefty, because the Mets don't really have that second guy. I mean, they have a couple of arms in camp. They have Stephen Tarpley, who's a former Yankee. They got Jerry Blevins back on a minor league deal. So I think he has a chance to make the team. So I think again, it depends on that rule. I have to look after we're done here.
Well, so here's what I'm looking at, an article from February. Oh yeah. So February of 2021.
That's now.
And it says that, now this is talking about spring training, crew using new spring rules to prep pitchers. The three batter rule that requires relievers to either face three hitters or finish an inning won't be enforced until March 14th. And that would make you think that it is going to be in effect for a year, right?
And you know what? Tell me the truth. Do you think that made any difference on the time of game? I don't.
No, I really don't, because I think that the whole changing of a pitcher thing is really not. I mean, I've read, even, I don't know who it was that broke this down, whether it was like Fangraphs or something of that nature, or maybe not something that official. But people have noted how it's really more the extra 30 seconds of commercial spots that are now completely a given. Like it used to be, I think, that it was a minute and a half for every in between or something like that, and now they do 2 minutes of commercials. Mm-hmm. And somebody said, if you really want to map out what it is that causes the games to last so much longer, it's those 30 seconds per commercial spot.
They're never giving up that money.
No, absolutely not. So, this notion that we should somehow, change the way the game has been played in a very significant way. You know what I mean? It's almost like, oh, wait, when it's your ace, you can choose to put the pitcher back in after pinch hitting for him. We're going to try that now. I mean, it's not exactly, but it's like, why are we making some sort of weird rule where you have to have three guys? I mean, look, last year, and from what I understand, they're continuing with the whole 7-inning doubleheader.
And they're also the runner on second in the.
Oh God. Oh,
you know what? Bad. You know what? I didn't like it at first. I'm gonna play devil's advocate for a second.
That's fine.
I'm very much a traditionalist, and it pisses me off when a guy can't hit a ground ball to the right side and then somebody hits a sacrifice fly, because that's all it takes.
Right.
Or even an out will get that run in.
Right.
So if that rule favors the home team so much, because when somebody fails, you literally don't have to get a hit to win the game.
Right.
And
yeah, I just don't think that to me, again, it's not baseball. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Baseball is conditioned to be a sport that is predicated on the long run. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Right.
The season itself weaves together like a fabric, like a quilt. You know what I mean?
Oh,
and
that was poetic.
decision, thank you. You like that?
Yeah, it did.
The decision that you make on a Monday can have a big bearing on your team that next weekend or whatever. If you don't
that next month, if you make the right decision, sure.
You know what I mean? All that kind of stuff. So I think that the elimination of the true drama and implication of an extra inning game, which happen every now and then. You know what I mean? There's a night where both teams aren't hitting, or it's a cold night in April and whatever. Nobody's getting out of the park. And, you're talking about an inning, it might go, 12, 13, 14 innings.
Or 16 for Carlos Beltran. Remember
right,
that?
exactly. Yeah, I did.
I
mean, look, there's some of the great Mets memories that I have, and some of them I can't even really like pull out of my brain right now, but I just remember them in a general sense. Games that you talk about playoff hockey and stuff like that. It's like one of those things where you're like on the edge of your seat because it's like, oh man, if we don't score this inning, that runner at second, and you just know they're not going to get another chance. You know what I mean? Like, come on, we got to get a hit here.
Playoff. Speaking of that, it drives me nuts in hockey that the rules, like in overtime, and that they have the shootout, and then the playoffs it's different. I think it should be uniform. I've always felt that way, and I like just having a winner. Man, I still remember a commercial where going back a little bit, before John Davidson was president of the Rangers, he was he was a color guy with Sam Rosen, and he had a tie on. And somebody cut his tie off. He goes, "No more ties in hockey." And Sam goes, "I love that tie." He goes, "So did my wife."
I like that.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm not gonna scream to the top of the hill about the runner on second. I mean, that's not.
To me, I just hate that stuff so much, and I'm a traditionalist. I hate. I also hate the DH. I'm happy that it happened last year because it really led to, I think, Dom Smith getting a chance and all that being such a positive for them as a team and on a number of different levels.
Well, that's a good segue. That is a very good segue because the Mets could still very much use it this year. And I still, call me crazy, I know it's getting close to the beginning of the season. I still don't think it's dead for this year.
No, apparently it's not. I read where they might still enact it.
Well, the owners still want expanded playoffs. So let's see if that ultimately is a trade.
Why are these people so dumb about why don't they have any appreciation for what makes their product?
Right. Imagine, it's not crazy to think with the Mets, the Mets play in the best division in baseball now with all the improvements everybody's made. I don't think anybody could argue that. I don't think any other division's close. I mean, the Yankees division, the Red Sox are the Blue Jays are better, but they still don't have much depth pitching. Right. And you could argue that the Braves, the Nationals, the Phillies, and the Mets all got better. Yeah. And the Marlins are probably going to sit. Who knows? They would sneak some game. Last year, they were sneaky.
Last year, didn't they win the division last year?
Last year, they made the playoffs.
Oh, no, the Braves won the division going away. But the Marlins were one of the many wild card teams.
Right. But can imagine a team, let's say, I'm going to say the Dodgers, big shocker, I'll have the most wins in the National League. So the Dodgers win 105 games or something. And then let's say the Cubs or the Nationals sneak in with 80, 500. There's got to be some sort of I don't want to say punishment, but they shouldn't have the same road to possibly go to the same place. I mean, it has to be.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, that's why I just don't understand. To me, baseball, and again, not to belabor the same point, but it's a very unique product. And rather than trying to, I don't know, water it down or bastardize it to try to make it more like other sports, I guess, or something. Like, that's not going to win you. That's not how it works. You know what I mean? Like, we live in a very like specialized, content-driven society, and if you like baseball, it's because you like baseball.
Absolutely.
God forbid. You know what I mean? Like, God forbid.
I don't think I've ever heard that verb before. Bastardized. That's a new one for me.
Well, please.
But I like it. I do like it. I'll credit you every time I use it.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Let's go back to the DH part. Let's assume that we don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's looking like opening day lineup, if nobody gets hurt, all that kind of stuff. You know, these depth issues usually settle themselves. Like last year, Dominic Smith doesn't explode if Yoenis Cespedes doesn't opt out.
Right.
And which ended up being a blessing.
That's true.
And apparently he's doing a showcase. And I don't know if you saw that comment by Sandy.
What a burn. That was great.
Oh, it was wonderful.
Yeah, Sandy's got a good sense of humor. He always has.
It'd be great if like the Mets sent somebody there just to smile while he was working out. But
they had somebody there like, watch out for potholes in the
watch out where the pigs or whatever you're fighting.
Yeah.
But it was a boar, right? A boar.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. So we look as of right now. I think we could agree that defensively the Mets would be best if Pete was at DH and Alonso was Pete was at the same person and Dom was at first.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would have in that world probably signed a center fielder, put Nimmo in left.
You think if they knew for sure that that was going to happen, they would have signed Jackie Bradley Jr.?
I think there's a fair chance. I also kind of like what they did. They took a risk on a couple. Pilar had a pretty good year last year, and Almora's like a defense first. He runs down a lot of balls, and McCann. So you think the Mets focused up the middle big time,
right?
So they got McCann, who's been known as a
and have we even mentioned Lindor?
Oh yeah, we did briefly, but
okay,
I'm so excited.
I mean, it's like one of the most under and my brother, who I love. Don't get me wrong, I love my brother, but he gets a little triggered, and he's a Jets fan. And he gets a little triggered with any of the sort of happy-go-lucky, like he's like, and I saw him, he's already dancing. And I said, no. Take it easy. This guy's a stud. This guy's an absolute stud.
Oh, he was a little annoyed by the
fact. He's like, this guy hasn't done anything yet. And he's got the flashy jacket, dancing.
Jaded. I mean, you know what? Met fans have the right to be jaded. We've especially at that, with the number he's going to wear on his back.
That's
shared by Roberto Alomar
from the Cleveland Indians
and Carlos Baerga.
Baerga was Baerga was freaking Jeff Kent on other teams compared to Robbie Alomar.
Alomar's a Hall of Famer, and he deserves to be. He had an amazing career, but when he got
awesome for everybody else,
I know, and. So that number, I hope to see him break the trend. Kent was 12 too, wasn't he?
He was actually.
Kent was 12 too. He's a guy that I think deserves more Hall of Fame love. I think for his position, I think he was really good. He was a really good
Hall of Fame. I mean, that we'll have to do another show on that one because that needs to be tarred and feathered.
Okay, I'm going to give you a small preview right now. I'm just going to say two words: Harold Baines.
Yeah, what? I mean, come on, stop.
What? He was. I don't know.
And for the record, I consider the White Sox to be my American League team. So I mean, I like Harold Baines. How was Harold Baines a Hall of Famer?
He was a good player.
Yeah, he was a very good player.
I didn't even know if I'd give it the very moniker. He was good. and when that announcer came out, I was like, "What?"
I know that was embarrassing. And I mean, especially when you consider the fact that a guy like. As Mets fans, we can appreciate having been taken to the woodshed by this guy. When Fred McGriff is not a
much better player.
I mean, Fred McGriff, and you want to talk about he had like 495 career homers. So what? The fact that he didn't hit 5 others when maybe in 1994, which he played during, maybe he would have hit 5 more home runs that year or something if they didn't stop playing in whatever. So I mean, come on.
I don't know. It's just that kind of stuff blows my mind. But I agree. There's plenty of fodder for a Hall of Fame.
Yeah, the Hall of Fame.
That could be a good discussion for a few.
We'll have to do one on the Hall of Fame someday. But yeah, look, we're coming up on just about an hour here.
Yes, we are.
I think that's a pretty tidy little nice amount of time for us to do our initial volley back into the.
How about I end it with a question we both give an answer to?
Sounds good.
All right. Right now, I'm going to make you go for a prediction. by the end of the season, the Mets will have how many wins? And consider, I'm going to say I'm leaving open a chance for like a trade deadline acquisition to put them over the top if need be.
Mm-hmm. I would say that they win 93.
Ooh, close to me. I was going to say 91.
Okay.
I think that's and
I think that they'll win the division, so that's why I'm saying 93. And I think that they'll oust the Braves, who are probably also a 90-win team.
I'll agree. I think I might go down to the last week.
Yeah.
And I think that's huge because if it goes by the old rules, then the wild card play-in, makes me think of Madison Bumgarner. I was at that game too. But yeah.
Talk about the year. That was the Noah Syndergaard year.
It was.
Yeah, that was the year that he was a total stud.
Yeah, and he pitched great.
He did.
Bumgarner was just better.
Yeah,
and Connor Gillespie hit the home run.
Connor effing Gillespie. He certainly did.
I think that's how we end it with just by saying Connor effing Gillespie. Although he dropped a pop up when the Mets played the White Sox. You remember that to keep the Mets alive in the top of the 9th inning?
Yeah, that's right.
In the middle of the infield.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that. And also, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong about this, but I feel like one of the only people that got a hit that game against Madison Bumgarner was Ty Kelly.
I believe that's true. Ty Kelly. I think did the Mets give him a job? They brought back Den Decker as a coach. I just saw that.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a blast from the past.
Yeah, he had a couple home runs, but
yeah, Matt.
Nice. I mean, those guys have funneled through. But Kelly, I mean, he's a very interesting Twitter follow. Kelly, he's funny.
Kelly? Yeah, I know. He's like a self-deprecating guy, and he talks a lot about the Mets and stuff, right? I think I did maybe follow him for a while, and maybe I don't anymore. I haven't really been as active.
Maybe that's the kind of guy we could get on here. We'll see.
That's true. He'd probably be interested.
Yeah, we get once we build up our immense following from this opening episode.
Well, look, we have nowhere to go. We have nowhere to go from up in terms of our live audience. We stayed at 0 the entire time, but we have plenty of ways to produce this and put it out there and make it possible for people to listen to a second time around. So we shall do that. Absolutely. And we'll continue to follow. I'm excited because I've got a few different things I'm going to do. I'm going to continue to write the occasional thing for Gotham baseball, just whenever the mood strikes, talking about Mets. And then I have a new thing I'm going to try this year. I wanted to do it last year, but it just kind of never came together. And with the abbreviated season, it just didn't really make sense. But my boyfriend has been getting into the Mets because of me and because of like my introducing him to the team. He loves Pete Alonso. And he's not the biggest sports fan in the world, but he likes the Mets. And it's a challenge for him to deal with some of my negativity, my in-game negativity, because I mean you've seen the Twitter rants. It's not
I've heard it too as in our brief run the first time. And I gotta say, you were pretty positive in this first episode.
I'm telling you, man, I'm feeling the Cohen era. I feel a certain type of way about where they're going as a franchise, and all it'll take is that first blown save for me to feel, my classic self once again. But I'm going to do a thing where on Friday nights, I think I'm going to start watching games with him, like a live stream where we're watching the games together. Cool. So because people, I threw that idea out there and people were receptive to it last year, but we didn't do it. So you'll hear a lot of, it's not even fun watching the games with you. You're so negative. You're so negative.
Sounds like me talking to my father. Really?
You know what my problem is? I can't help but ask questions sometimes. So this might be an example. Why would you throw him the change up there? It just doesn't make any sense. Why? You can't even risk walking the guy there. You know what I mean?
You can catch up to the fastball. Why would you speed up his bat? I get it. That's why DeGrom throws 3 fastballs and gets guys.
Right. Oh, God, I can't wait. I'm excited. All right, look. This is the time for me to be optimistic, so I'm going to bask in it while I can.
Okay. I look forward to watching this again at a later point, and when we're talking about the big injury or the guy who isn't doing anything.
When Noah Syndergaard has a setback in his rehab, and when Conforto's batting .225, but thinking about his contract, and when Lindor is dealing with hamstring tightness. Yeah, no.
It's okay. The Mets have 8 guys that can bat third, right?
Yeah, right. All right. So for Mike Ganci, I'm James Flippin. This is Flippin' the Mic, the relaunch, and we will talk to you next time.
Let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets. All right, brother. I'll see you soon. All right.
Be well.
Later.